Chapter 2381, An Excellent Mother, 1. Because of the hot weather recently, not only did she have to shower daily, but she also had to wash the clothes she changed out of. Otherwise, even if there was only a small drop of sweat on her clothes, they would similarly smell bad after being left for a long time. Needless to ask, Ding Jiyi washed her own clothes. Qiao Zijin wanted to throw the clothes that she changed out of to Ding Jiyi to wash. In the past, their dirty clothes would never be placed together as Qiao Zijin complained that Ding Jiyi was old. Her body wasn't clean, and so were the clothes she wore. Even if they were all dirty clothes, if they were placed together, her own clothes would stink as well. The situation was different now. She didn't even prepare meals for her now. Did Qiao Zijin think that she could just throw her clothes to Ding Jiyi to wash, just like before? Qiao Zijin kept comforting herself that indeed, there was a certain unpleasant smell to old people's clothes. However, clothes were dirty and had to be washed. Even if her clothes had such a smell as well, washing them should remove the smell. When Qiao Zijin placed her dirty clothes down, she even flipped them upside down. After confirming that Ding Jiyi's underwear was at the bottom of the basket, Qiao Zijin put down her clothes first, then her underwear. This isolation measure was done well. It was naturally also obvious that she despised Ding Jiyi. Ding Jiyi was initially unwilling to help Qiao Zijin wash clothes. They weren't even having meals together now. Why should she wash her clothes? She wasn't born to be a slave. She wanted to enjoy life as well. She had invested so much money and effort in Qiao Zijin. Initially, she wanted herself, the biological mother, to lead a good life after Qiao Zijin became successful. Of course, Ding Jiyi no longer counted on Qiao Zijin to help her lead a good life. However, since she couldn't enjoy Qiao Zijin's blessings, she similarly no longer wanted to be her mother and serve her at this age. Ding Jiyi, who was infuriated, took out Qiao Zijin's clothes without saying a word and threw them to the ground. She only washed her own clothes. In front of Ding Jiyi, Qiao Zijin acted tough. "You dare to throw my clothes? I'll dare to throw your clothes." What was different was that Ding Jiyi only threw Qiao Zijin's dirty clothes to the ground. However, Qiao Zijin threw Ding Jiyi's clean clothes to the ground. After Ding Jiyi saw this, their mother-daughter relationship deteriorated, and they nearly wanted to rip off each other's hair. So many conflicts could arise between the mother-daughter pair because of washing clothes and having meals. Ding Jiyi knew that Qiao Zijin despised her for being old. Did she also have to say that she had a particularly unpleasant smell on her? It was such a hot day. Upon thinking about the problem of taking a shower or going to the toilet, Ding Jiyi hated both her daughters immediately. The person she hated the most wasn't Qiao Zijin, but Qiao Nan. She understood what kind of person Qiao Zijin was. Qiao Nan did as well. Did Qiao Nan have to use such a trick to punish herself for causing her trouble by driving the caretaker away? Ruthless. She was too ruthless. Was she really the daughter she gave birth to? Wasn't she her enemy? At the same time, Ding Jiyi felt regretful. She obviously knew that Qiao Nan was no longer like she had been in the past. She wouldn't let her bully her and would even retaliate. Why did she have to be at odds with Qiao Nan, this ruthless girl, out of anger? It was the same 10,000 yuan spent. A hired caretaker would definitely be here to take care of her. However, once this person was changed to Qiao Zijin, she wasn't taking care of her but torturing her such that she led a shorter life. Ding Jiyi was so filled with hatred that she no longer knew what she should do. Qiao Zijin's relaxed footsteps were quickly tied up by a short message. "Next, remember. It's not so easy to receive my money, let alone take it for granted. If something happens to her body or her condition worsens, you can try and see if I have ways to make you spit out the money that you've swallowed." Qiao Nan understood both Ding Jiyi's and Qiao Zijin's characters. Yes, she had given 10,000 yuan to Qiao Zijin for her to take care of Ding Jiyi. Indeed, Xiao Nan had put some thoughts into this. The problem was that this wasn't a one-way situation, but a two-way one. Xiao Zijin wasn't a filial daughter. Was Ding Jiyi a doting mother then? If that had been the case, Ding Jiyi wouldn't have been admitted to the hospital. However, if Ding Jiyi was willing to be like the past and not only treat Xiao Zijin as her center but also diligently sacrifice for her, as long as Xiao Zijin didn't need to spend any money, she would give Ding Jiyi countless compliments. It was guaranteed that this bootlicker would let Ding Jiyi feel comfortable all over. If this mother-daughter pair had an internal conflict and both of them were angry inside, Xiao Zijin would make Ding Jiyi feel uncomfortable and Ding Jiyi would similarly make Xiao Zijin unhappy. It could be said that similar content was sent to Xiao Zijin's and Ding Jiyi's mobiles at about the same time. As such, Ding Jiyi could be said to have something she could control Xiao Zijin with so that she couldn't be as rampant as before. After keeping away her mobile, Ding Jiyi felt comfortable in her heart. You received that wretched girl's short message as well, right? I thought that she was so ruthless and really wanted me dead. It seems like that wasn't the case. Her heart is still red in color. If you understand it, you should know it in your heart. If you want to have a good meal or buy pretty clothes, I won't stop you. The premise is that you have to take care of me well. If I feel uncomfortable, I'll definitely tell Xiao Nan. By then, remember how to return Xiao Nan the 10,000 yuan you've spent. That would be the best. She would then have an excuse to let Xiao Nan continue hiring a caretaker for her. It was the same 10,000 yuan. However, Ding Jiyi liked the care of others instead of Xiao Zijin's. She knew that even if Xiao Zijin no longer dared to play tricks and bully her anymore but take care of her seriously, based on Xiao Zijin's lifestyle habits for the past few decades, her level of giving care was extremely low. How would it be as good as a caretaker? It would be considered not bad if Xiao Zijin could take good care of herself, let alone taking care of her. Since she was spending the same amount of money, she naturally wanted to enjoy better service. After settling Ding Jiyi's situation, Xiao Nan could take her graduation examinations with ease. This mother-daughter pair had the same standards. If they wanted to deal with others, they might have fewer means. However, if they were at odds with each other, they were stable enough based on their standards. If this mother-daughter pair continued to treat each other like this, as long as they knew their limits, Xiao Nan could save a lot of thoughts and time in the future. Zai Sheng had already informed Xiao Dongliang about Ding Jiyi's hospitalization. Chapter 2382, An Excellent Mother, 2. On the surface, Xiao Dongliang didn't have any reaction. Xiao Nan didn't care what Xiao Dongliang's thoughts were. She just wanted to share Ding Jiyi's and Xiao Zijin's recent situations with him. I think your current arrangement is good. They should trouble others less in the future. Their daily lives would be exciting if they created trouble for each other. Although this method wasn't the best, those who understood Ding Jiyi and Xiao Zijin couldn't help but admit that this method was effective. If they didn't create trouble for each other, they would create trouble for others. Unfortunately, Xiao Nan was their best choice. Xiao Dongliang was their second best candidate after Xiao Nan. As a human being, who wouldn't be selfish? It was better for others to be unlucky than oneself. It wasn't easy for him to finally lead more than a month of peaceful life. Xiao Dongliang really didn't want to return to that kind of exciting life that made his brain hurt. Are the triplets well recently? If there was a chance, Xiao Dongliang wanted to go to the capital to visit his 3 grandchildren. The days in the Xiao family's courtyard were too noisy. After moving away, Xiao Dongliang felt that it was too cold. At this time, he couldn't help but think that his life would be happier if there was a child next to him. Pretty good. Hold on. Xiao Nan sent a bunch of photos of the triplets' recent lives to Xiao Dongliang. Xiao Dongliang was full of surprise. The triplets know how to crawl already. Those small arms and legs looked particularly strong. Most importantly, the smiles on the children's faces let Xiao Dongliang know that they were well taken care of and were leading happy lives. unlike. They aren't very nimble yet, but they don't need anyone to carry them now. After learning how to crawl, they don't like to be carried by others. Unless it's urgent, they'd rather wriggle slowly like insects. Xiaonan had to take her hat off to the triplets' temper. She wasn't sure if they had inherited this from her or Zai Sheng. Every time they saw the triplets crawling forward with their chubby legs, they didn't feel anything. However, those watching by the side were anxious. Even Zai Yaowai, the stable grandpa, couldn't help but push Da Bao's chubby buttocks once to help him advance more than 10 centimeters. To this, not only was Da Bao unhappy, but he even pouted and looked at his grandpa with resentment, as if asking him why he was disturbing his learning to crawl. Zai Yaowai couldn't help but touch his nose out of guilt. There was no choice. When Zai Hua and Zai Sheng were as young as the triplets, he and Miaojing didn't stay by their sides. Zai Yaowai didn't know how his daughter and son were like when they were young. Furthermore, elders would feel completely different when facing their children compared to their grandchildren. Zai Yaowai didn't give Zai Sheng any special help as he was growing up. In the face of the triplets, Zai Yaowai couldn't bear to be hard-hearted. He was like the rest of the grandpas from other families, doting on his grandchildren and constantly refreshing his lower limits. How were the children spoiled? Just like this. As he listened to Xiaonan's description, Xiao Dongliang felt like he had witnessed the 3 children crawling before him. That's good. Your in-laws are good. You are good as well, thus the 3 children are brought up well. If there's a chance next time, I'll go to the capital to visit them. Xiaonan hesitated for a while. Dad, there's no need to. During the Mid-Autumn Festival, we will return to Qingshui town and pay respect to the Zai family's elders. It was only June now. The Mid-Autumn Festival was 3 to 4 months away. Xiaonan wasn't sure what Xiao Dongliang meant by next time. She felt that since their family would be returning to Qingshui town, her dad didn't need to run about. If not for the triplets being young and them being far away, Zai Sheng would have long brought the 3 children back to Qingshui town to the Zai family's old villa so that old Master Zai and his wife could see the 4th-generation children of their family. When old Master Zai left, the unmarried Zai Sheng and married Zai Hua were his major heartaches. Thankfully, after Zai Sheng met Xiaonan, Zai Sheng and Zai Hua both produced good results for old Master Zai and his wife, although they were a little late. Xiaonan usually took a bunch of photos of the 3 children. Zai Sheng would print them out, make them into a photo album, and place it at the Zai family's old villa. Xiao Dongliang was pretty happy when he heard the news. That works too. I'll wait for you to come over to Qingshui town during the Mid-Autumn Festival. By then, the triplets would be 1 year old. Their bones would have been stronger. Most importantly, the weather wouldn't be so hot then. It will be much cooler and they wouldn't be badly scorched by the heat. I'll wait for you to come over. We can celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival together. The Mid-Autumn Festival was the most significant day in China for a family to be reunited. Xiao Dongliang felt that it would be more meaningful if he had the opportunity to meet his 3 grandchildren then. After knowing that the Zai family had such an itinerary, Xiao Dongliang's heart felt comfortable. Nan, aren't you studying recently? How is it? I'm having my examinations the day after tomorrow. I'll graduate after getting the results. Xiaonan didn't expect that after giving birth, she would be graduating in the blink of an eye. Of course, when it came to certificates and educational qualifications, there wasn't a need for Xiaonan to compare them with her dream. As for her job, she didn't even need to think about it. What was different was that as a woman who was over 40 years old whose children were not yet 1 year old, Xiaonan was much less career-minded than in her dream. Rather than struggling with her career achievements, Xiaonan would rather spend more time on her 3 children. It wasn't easy to bring up a child well. Furthermore, she needed to nurture her triplets at the same time. Thankfully, in this aspect, the Zai family didn't have any demands of Xiaonan. They felt that it was pretty good that Xiaonan was willing to stay at home and take care of the children. That was part of her career as well. It was better for the children to be brought up by their biological mother. Zai Yaowai and Miaojing didn't feel that Jiaonan's low educational qualifications would delay the triplets' growth and development. Only the Zai family knew that although Jiaonan didn't have high educational qualifications, it didn't mean that she wasn't capable. When they occasionally heard Jiaonan speaking English by chance, they truly felt that she was no different from the newscaster of the state-owned television international news channel. Based on this, Zai Yaowai and Miaojing were not worried that their grandchildren wouldn't be able to learn English well in the future at all. Under the nurturing of Jiaonan, their biological mother, the triplets' English might even stun all the neighbors in the future. Chapter 2383, An Excellent Mother, 3. Zai Yaowai and Miaojing weren't old fools. They could see the hard work that Jiaonan put in for the three children. Even though the three children couldn't speak Chinese well yet, Jiaonan would switch between Chinese and English from time to time when teaching them to recognize things. What made the two elders relieved was that under Jiaonan's training method, aside from the triplets being confused at the start, they gradually got used to it and could guess that the same thing was being referred to in Chinese and English. Actually, Jiaonan figured out this method of education in her dream. To put it more accurately, it was her master, Lin Yuankong, who had taught this to Jiaonan. Jiaonan initially felt that she had given the children too much pressure. While she paid attention to the children's language learning environment, had she started too early? Thankfully, the facts later proved that her triplets seemed to have adapted well, although Jiaonan wasn't sure about other children. "Mom, carry me." Children grew up quickly. To Jiaonan, in the blink of an eye, not only could the three children who were still crawling around like worms yesterday stumble around and rush forward like little ducks now, but they had also grown teeth and could call out to their mother for her to hug them. Zai Sheng glanced at Bao, who loved to act like a spoiled child, and said in disdain, "Your mom's not carrying you. You're too fat." Bao blinked, as if not understanding what his dad meant. After thinking for a while, Bao seemed to understand it a little. He lowered his head and used his small hands to touch the flesh on his body seriously before answering, "Grandma." "Jia," said Bao. "Good." The three children didn't know how to say long sentences now. They could only utter single words at a time. Bao spent a little more time saying this broken sentence. It wasn't considered easy for him to express all the meaning in his words. "Yes, how is our Bao fat? Children look better if they grow up like this. Our Bao's just right. He's not fat at all." Miaojing was the first to step out and lecture the unscrupulous Zai Sheng. He was really bold to bully her grandson like this. "Bao, I've cut an apple for you. Shall we go and eat it now?" Bao shook his head stubbornly. "No. No." Bao repeated this word a few times and sprayed his saliva on Miaojing's face. "Eat. Heavy. Mom. Carry." What Bao meant was that if he ate the apple, he would become heavier. He wanted his mom to carry him, not have fruits. "Give. Da san. He wasn't going to eat it. Da Bao and San Bao could help him eat it. Yes, if the two of them ate his apple. Bao wouldn't mind it at all. "Okay, I'll carry you." Had it not been for Zai Sheng stopping her, Jiaonan would have long carried Bao, this little fatty. After the three children grew up and had strength in their legs, Jiaonan rarely carried them. It wasn't that she didn't want to, but she didn't dare to. The children were still young and insensible. Once they encountered something exciting, their strength of flapping and moving around wasn't something that ordinary people could withstand. This was almost the same situation for the three children. If they kicked about in Jiaonan's arms, Jiaonan would fall together with them. This made Jiaonan slowly develop the habit of not carrying children. To them, having a mother carry them became more attractive and they became infatuated. "Carry. Upon hearing that his mom was willing to carry him, Bao's eyes shone. He opened his arms, ran to Jiao Nan, and pounced on her legs. Jiao Nan placed her hands under Bao's armpits. Yes, there was more flesh around Bao. Don't move around. Bao has grown up. If Bao moves around, I can't carry you. No, no. Bao sat on Jiao Nan's lap obediently and waved his chubby hands, signaling that he wouldn't move around. After that, Bao pointed to a fairy tale book on the coffee table. Mom, read. Jiao Nan naturally wouldn't stop her children from reading books. They were probably influenced by blood ties, but Bao and Bao only liked books where the characters were dressed in green military uniforms and wearing little green hats. Even if it was the same story and Jiao Nan had already repeated it several times, they didn't seem to get tired of listening and would want to hear it again the next time. It was a really good thing to Jiao Nan that her son was so good-tempered and nostalgic. At least until now, she wasn't in a hurry to find other fairy tale books for the three children. The three children hadn't gotten tired of the ones at home. Bao leaned his head against his mom's soft chest. An expression of enjoyment hung on his face as he kicked his legs. Both his expression and action told everyone how happy he was now. He could be as smug as he wanted and as happy as he wanted. The son was happy, but the father felt uncomfortable in his heart. Zai Sheng thought for a while. He put one hand between Jiao Nan and Bao, grabbed the fabric of Bao's clothes, and pulled Bao out of Jiao Nan's arms. Then, he placed him on his lap. Your mom's tired. I'll carry you. Bao expressed that he couldn't understand why he suddenly switched places. After blinking a few times, he adapted to the fact that the person carrying him now had changed from his mom to his dad. Bao hesitated and looked at Jiao Nan. Mom. Pain. Bao didn't know what tired was. He only felt that any uncomfortable feeling in this world should be called pain. Under Zai Sheng's threatening gaze, Jiao Nan held back her laughter and nodded reluctantly. It's a little painful. If she didn't tell her son that she was feeling pained, she was afraid that this man next to her would hold her down until she felt pain. After thinking for a while, Jiao Nan could only succumb to Zai Sheng's might and tell a white lie to her son. Blow. Pain. Fly. Bao pouted and wanted to blow out some air for Jiao Nan. However, Zai Sheng pressed his head and turned it away. Zai Xin, how many times have I told you that blowing your saliva is something impolite? Your brother and sister never do this. Why are you so disobedient? The three children were just a little over a year old. They were at an age with a lot of saliva. If Bao really blew at Jiao Nan, she would be sprayed with a lot of saliva. He wasn't exaggerating at all. Bao became unhappy. He only allowed his mom to carry him. Chapter 2384, Unnecessary, 1. He wanted his mom to blow on his wound, but his father was getting in the way. What was his father trying to do? Bao threw a tantrum and stretched out his arm to push Zai Sheng away. Bad. Bad daddy. Bao said these words especially clearly. Jiao Nan looked at Bao sternly. Bao, what did mom teach you? You can't disrespect your dad like this. It's hard for dad to be working and supporting the family. Jiao Nan had never been exceptionally lax with the children just because she had given birth to them at the age of 40. So what if they had come later in life? It was exactly because she loved her children that she had to inculcate the right values in them so that they wouldn't go astray. Bao felt aggrieved. It was obviously his dad bullying him, but why was his mom helping his dad instead of him? Bao and San Bao had no idea how to comfort their sibling. With their dad around, no one dared to get their mom to carry them. It wouldn't take long before their dad would carry them away. They had had too many such experiences. As long as Zai Sheng was at home, Bao and San Bao never bothered to crawl into Jiao Nan's embrace. But Bao was different. He was clingy to begin with, and as long as he saw an opportunity to let his mom carry him, he would take it. Moreover, it was rare that De Bao and San Bao weren't fighting with him. As such, Bao took on the challenge even with his father present. He was still young, but one day, he would grow up. Then, he would definitely deal with his father. Bao. Xiao Nan called out gently and Bao hummed. Xiao Nan stroked Bao's face and planted a kiss as compensation. Bao, do you remember what Mom taught you? Dad works very hard and we should love him, shouldn't we? Go and kiss your dad. Xiao Nan would definitely lecture her son since he had disrespected her husband. But Xiao Nan was Zai Sheng's wife and knew that Zai Sheng had purposely stood in the way and bullied their son. Of course, she had to help her husband. But now that she had done that, it was time to help her son. Bao was still upset. His dad was annoying and liked to bully him. He wasn't going to kiss his dad. De Bao sauntered over and smacked Bao's leg. Kiss, kiss. Hadn't he seen his father's look of disgust? De Bao probably understood that their father probably didn't want Bao to kiss him either. Yes, at such a time, the three of them had to band together. Their dad always bullied them. But they were triplets, after all, and would do everything together. San Bao pursed her lips and supported herself by placing her hand on Zai Sheng's knee. She puckered up her lips and made a kissing sound. In an instant, the masculine Zai Sheng was surrounded by the three babies who insisted on kissing him. Zai Sheng's face was dark and his expression sour. But these three children were his children, and his most beloved woman, Xiao Nan, had given birth to them. Whether or not he was willing to do it, Zai Sheng had no choice but to bend down and let the three children kiss him. Bao left a mouthful of saliva on Zai Sheng's left cheek, while De Bao did the same on his right cheek. As the only girl, San Bao left a slobbering kiss on Zai Sheng's head. Because of all the saliva that had been left all over him, Zai Sheng could probably save on washing his face. Because of all the kissing that had been going on, Bao had forgotten all about his little tantrum earlier. He giggled and fell into Zai Sheng's embrace with De Bao and San Bao. At this time, Bao had finally remembered the advantages of his father. His father was stronger than his mom and could carry them high up in the air. Like now, their mom had gotten tired from carrying just one of them, but their father could carry all three of them at once. Bao felt bad for Xiao Nan needing to carry his chubby self. But now that it was Zai Sheng doing so, Bao felt that he was only a little baby who knew nothing at all. There was no need for him to care about anything other than growing up happily. Seeing that the father and his children had made up, Miao Jing secretly heaved a sigh of relief. She had not realized it earlier, but she had recently found out how childish her usually mature son could get. He was already a grown man, and yet, he was fighting with his sons over a woman. It sounded a little ridiculous, but that was how it was. It was only normal for the children to be clingy to their mom since they were still young. But her son was a jealous incarnate. Zai Sheng wouldn't even let his own sons get close to Nan Nan. Sometimes, when he got more aggressive, even San Bao would be tossed aside. He was really. Every time she saw her son trying to snatch things from her grandsons, Miao Jing had to resist the urge to butt in. If not for the fact that she was old, and if she still had the energy to do so, she would have interfered and dealt with this fool of a son she had. In the past, she had always complained about the children in the Zai family choosing to stay in the military. Her husband had been like that, and even her son and daughter had been like that too. What if that happened to her grandchildren too? The problem was that Zai Sheng was no longer like that. As long as Zai Sheng was not in the military and was at home, he was usually the main reason the children threw tantrums. On one side were three adorable babies who had just celebrated their first birthday, and on the other was an old man of almost 50. Miao Jing couldn't understand why a soldier like Zai Sheng had to play such childish games. Was he trying to make up for the childhood he had lost? In short, when her son acted shamelessly, she didn't even want to acknowledge that she had given birth to such a son. Miaojing felt sorry for the triplets for giving them such a shameless father. It was her fault as a mother that she had not taught Zisheng well. But she would only bear half of that responsibility. The other half belonged to Zai Yaowai. Humph! Zai Yaowai coughed to warn Zisheng to know his limits. They had once worried about Zisheng having no one by his side if he did not get married. Now, they knew that even his children didn't mean much to him because he had found the right person. Seeing how Zisheng treated his sons as obstructions between him and Qiaonan, Zai Yaowai couldn't stand it. How had they not known that Zisheng was such an affectionate person? He was even getting jealous of his own sons. Chapter 2385. Unnecessary, 2. Picking up all three children at the same time, Zisheng headed toward the washroom to wash his face and wipe the children's mouths and chins at the same time. Zisheng could not care less about his parents' disdain. In the past, he had felt the same way. He had never thought that anyone in the Zai family would go crazy for love. But after seeing one example after the other, Zisheng was sure that the people in the Zai family were only cold on the outside. Leaving the typical example of his parents, when Zihua had truly been in love with Weidai, she had chosen him over her own family. He was no different. Now that he had Nan Nan, he felt that it was perfect with just the two of them. Even their children were an eyesore at times, and he had to resist the urge to throw them out. But those were only his thoughts. There was no way he would ever carry them out because he knew that no matter how much he was annoyed by these children, Qiaonan saw them as her precious babies and could not bear to leave them for even just a moment. Zisheng was all too clear that Qiaonan would probably kick him off the bed if he dared to throw his children out. After their faces and chins were wiped clean, the children felt comfortable. Then, they sincerely and obediently called out for their dad, planting a kiss on Zisheng again. This time, the children had not made any trouble and had not left any saliva on Zisheng's face either. Sanbao leaned against Zisheng's leg, her hand and face resting against Zisheng's knee. "Daddy, water!" After kicking up such a fuss, Sanbao was thirsty and wanted her dad to feed her. What else could Zisheng do since his daughter had already asked for water? Thankfully, the auntie listened to Qiaonan and always had warm water ready for the children. Zisheng poured Sanbao a cup and handed it over for her to drink. He did not even need to help her with it. Since he was pouring one of them a drink, it made sense to feed all three of them at once. Seeing the three children getting their fill of water and wanting to play, Zisheng spread out his arms, carried all three children at the same time, and headed into the playroom. To be honest, not every 50-year-old man would be able to carry three chubby toddlers at the same time. Thankfully, Zisheng was a soldier and no one could match up to his strength and skills. In less than a few minutes, laughter could be heard from the playroom. Miaojing was finally relaxed. Actually, our Zisheng does feel like a dad. It was just that she had to hold back and not slap him when he got mischievous. Sometimes, she couldn't help but wonder if Zisheng was truly 47 and a father of 3. If Zisheng's soldiers were to see how he behaved at home, they would definitely be scared stiff. Because Zisheng had taken charge of the 3 children, Qiaonan was now free. She took out her phone and made a call to Zihua. "Sister Zihua, it's me. I wanted to ask you about Jiajia's recent English grades." Jiajia was already in the 2nd year of high school and would be taking the college entrance examination soon. In the past, Jiajia's English standards had not been too bad. She had even attended English enrichment classes regularly. But ever since she entered high school and met an English teacher whom she did not like, her interest in English had declined, and she had even become lazy. In less than half a semester, Jiajia's results had taken a tumble. Last summer vacation, Jiajia's English results had been so bad that Zihua had almost hired 5 English tutors for Jiajia and had almost stopped her from visiting the triplets. Jiajia's rebellious stage had finally started, and the mother and daughter had been at loggerheads. What could Xiao Nan say about this situation? She admitted that children's interest in a subject depended on how much they liked the teacher. Perhaps, it was because she had been so suppressed in the Wei family that she had had no choice but to be obedient. Now that there was no longer the need to do so, Jiajia's temper was starting to show gradually. The mother and daughter had been in a fierce fight, so much so that Zihua's friends in Pingcheng had been taken aback. It was the same feeling they had gotten when Zihua had stubbornly insisted on getting married to Weida at that time. In the end, everyone had to admit that Jiajia might be away, but she was a Zai at heart. Her temper was exactly like her mom's. What could Zihua's friends do but relay the situation to the Zai family once the mother and daughter had gone into a cold war? Hearing that Zihua and Jiajia had fallen out with each other, Miaojing had been terribly anxious. One was her daughter, while the other was her granddaughter. Given their tempers, something was bound to happen. More importantly, Jiajia was now a high school student. She had already fallen behind for 2 terms, and if something were to happen, there was no way Jiajia would be able to settle down and focus on her studies. If Jiajia had not even been able to study well in such a peaceful environment, it would be impossible for her to even go to school if something were to happen. Miaojing had wondered if it would be better for her to return to Pingcheng to counsel the mother-daughter pair. It was not as though Zihua had never thrown such a tantrum in the past. The mother and daughter were like 2 peas in a pod. It was clear where Jiajia had inherited her temper from. In the end, Xiao Nan had proposed a suggestion for Zihua to bring Jiajia to the capital. Firstly, it was true that it was stressful for high school students. Although it was important to stay focused on one's studies, it was equally important to relax from time to time. There were countless examples of high school students falling sick due to the pressure they faced. Besides, Xiao Nan had personally told Zihua that she had already graduated and had passed the professional qualifications test to obtain her certificates in English. If Zihua was willing to give it a try, she was willing to tutor Jiajia in English whenever Jiajia had time off outside of her summer classes. She would try her best to improve Jiajia's English standards to match up to other high school students. To be honest, Zihua was much more willing to spend money on a tutor than let her sister-in-law, Xiao Nan, take care of this matter. After all, Xiao Nan was not a professional, and it was an undeniable fact that Xiao Nan did not have high educational qualifications. Chapter 2386, Unnecessary, 3. Besides, Xiao Nan had 3 children to take care of. She couldn't even take care of her own daughter. How could she trouble Xiao Nan, who had 3 young children to take care of, with her own daughter? Zihua was reluctant and was even thinking of hiring a few tutors for Jiajia during the summer break. What Zihua had not expected was for Jiajia to take the initiative herself. She was indeed as resolute as a soldier. She had already turned 18, and thus, with her identity card and ticket in hand, she had gone to her grandma's house alone. It was not as though she didn't know them. Why would she still require her mom's approval to head over? Her mom hadn't gotten anyone's approval either when she had insisted on getting married to her dad. Zihua had happily invited the hired tutor home only to find that Jiajia had left. In the end, it was the tutor who had spotted the note on the table that said that she had gone to her grandma's house. She would send a message once she arrived in the capital. Zihua had only just read the note when she received Jiajia's text message. Not only had Jiajia sent a message, but she had even attached a photo with the capital's airport as the background. Zihua couldn't help but laugh and feel angry at the same time upon seeing the photo. There was no question that she was angry at Jiajia for having left without informing her beforehand and only leaving a note before heading off to the capital alone. She should really give a child like that a good beating. When she and Zai Sheng had been young, they had been beaten by the old master too. Now that she was a mother herself, she had never even hit Jiajia before, no matter how disobedient Jiajia had been. It was because of that Jiajia had grown up to be so spoiled. Thankfully, Jiajia had not gotten into any accidents this time and had arrived in the capital safely. If something had happened to Jiajia along the way, she would really have lost the will to live. What could Zihua do since Jiajia was already in the capital? She could only make a call to her family, asking them to bring her back home. Then, she had to send the tutor off. Thankfully, the tutor had not said much given the situation. After settling the tutor, Zihua, who was used to having her world revolve around her daughter after her divorce, bought a ticket on the earliest flight to the capital to chase after her daughter. Zihua felt bad about troubling Jiaonan. Not only did Jiaonan have to take care of her 3 children, but she would even have to tutor Jiajia. But Zihua was the party involved and didn't want to interfere in the matter either. Jiajia's English wasn't good because she didn't like her teacher. But Jiajia liked her aunt, Jiaonan, very much. Ever since Jiaonan had given birth to the triplets, Jiaonan had become Jiajia's most admired person. Where else would she find such an impressive aunt who could have her uncle wrapped around her fingers and give birth to 3 children at once? After Jiajia acknowledged Jiaonan as her teacher, Jiaonan didn't set any assignments for Jiajia. All she did was to give Jiajia a few casual lessons after checking on Jiajia's English level. Jiajia had already been prepared to go through hell. As such, she could not get used to Jiaonan's style of teaching at first. After 2 days, Zihua asked Jiajia in private how her classes with Jiaonan had been. Jiajia replied that it was not difficult at all. In fact, it was even fun. The moment Zihua heard that, she secretly came to a decision to allow Jiajia to have her fun for 10 days in the capital. Once they returned to Pingcheng, she would find a tutor for Jiajia. It was rare for Jiaonan to have the heart to teach Jiajia. And Zihua thought that wasting 10 days wouldn't mean much. She would simply wait for these 10 days to pass. Her daughter had already fallen behind for 2 semesters. Zihua couldn't help but comfort herself with the fact that 10 days wouldn't mean much as compared to 2 semesters. With that attitude, Zihua became open-minded. Anyway, Jiajia wouldn't have an easy time once she returned to Pingcheng. Her summer break would practically be non-existent. As such, these 10 days in the capital would be the only 10 days Jiajia would be able to relax. It wouldn't be too much to give her daughter some time off. Perhaps, it was because Jiajia had adjusted her attitude that Jiajia had reluctantly left her siblings after 10 days, only bringing with her their photos. After they returned to Pingcheng, Zihua wasted no time in finding a renowned English tutor. Jiajia's attitude toward this tutor had softened, and she did whatever Zihua told her to do. The tutor had learned more about Jiajia's situation through Zihua. However, she decided to let Jiajia complete a practice paper to get to know her better. Of course, the tutor had set this paper based on the standards of an elite high school student. The tutor was surprised after marking Jiajia's paper. "Madam Zai, I understand your feelings of wanting your daughter to excel, but I think that your daughter's English is pretty good. It'll put a lot of pressure on your child if you're overly anxious. A score like that is not bad." The tutor had only stopped short of saying that her student today had already mastered the content of the English taught in the first year of high school. The tutor was reluctant to waste her time teaching Jiajia something she already knew. Otherwise, she might very well start to hate her. Then, her results would fall once again. Besides, if you're really concerned about your child's results, you can forget about the knowledge taught in the first year. She can move on to what's taught in the second year and go over that during her summer break. It was rare for her to meet such generous parents. While the tutor didn't want to drag the student down, neither did she want to give up such a handsome salary. "If you're willing, I'll change my study plan once I leave. Tomorrow, we can start your child on the knowledge taught in the second year. What do you think about that?" "Hey!" Zihua understood every word that the tutor had said, but they didn't make sense in a whole sentence. Jiajia had almost failed her term test, so how could it be possible that Jiajia's English was good and she no longer needed tuition? Chapter 2387, Reincarnation is a Skill, 1. It was very necessary. "Teacher, didn't you set a paper for my daughter? How much did Jiajia score?" It was better not to confuse her like that. It would be better to prove her words with some results. The tutor handed Jiajia's paper over to Zihua. Here's the composition that the student wrote. I wasn't particularly lenient when marking this, but there weren't many points of criticism. There weren't any grammatical mistakes and the student also used good vocabulary. She only made some careless mistakes here. 99. Zihua blinked. If she had not heard the tutor's analysis, she would have suspected that there was something wrong with her eyes and that she would have to make a visit to the hospital. Did you grade it wrongly? Thinking about how Jiajia had only scored 66 marks for her term test but had scored 99 in less than a month's time, she couldn't believe the situation. No, I graded it properly. Zihua told the tutor after some thought. All right, you're the teacher and you know more about this than me. Since you said that my daughter has already mastered the content taught in the first year, you can return tomorrow to start on the content taught in the second year. I'll send you out. After politely sending the tutor off, Zihua flared up at Jiajia the moment she returned home. Wei Jiajia, are you trying to fool me? Did you purposely do badly on your test and score 66 marks just because you hated the teacher? Zihua didn't believe that Jiajia's English results could have improved so drastically in such a short span of time. The only explanation was that Jiajia had always had it in her to score 99. It was just that she had purposely done badly in that test. Zihua would much rather think that Jiajia had not learned well than Jiajia treated her results and future as a joke simply because she did not like her teacher. Jiajia had initially been rather happy about having scored 99 marks, proving her abilities. But she was infuriated now that Zihua was saying such things about her. You're doing this again. How could you doubt me? I'm a student. Do you think I don't want to do well in exams and be a good student? Mom, you're my biological mother. Shouldn't you be happy about my improvement? How could you suspect that I purposely did badly on my test? Mom, are you going through menopause? You'd better buy some medicine for yourself. It's really frustrating for me now that you're acting this way. Her aunt wasn't young either. But why was her aunt so gentle and nice while her mom was like a tigress, always flaring up? Her mom hadn't even tried to understand the situation before pinning the blame on her. If not for the fact that her aunt had already counseled her, she would definitely have gotten into a fight with her mom again. While she understood that her mom was stressed because of her divorce from her dad, it wasn't right for her mom to vent her anger out on her. Ever since she started living with her mom and stopped seeing her paternal grandma's family, she had not gotten into any trouble. What was her mom worried and anxious about? Zihua was worried about her daughter, while Jiajia was a strong and fiercely independent young lady. When the mother and daughter started raising their voices, it was as though Mars had knocked into the earth. Jiajia thought for a while before saying, "Do you really think I only had fun with my aunt in those 10 days in the capital? My aunt is a much better teacher than those teachers in school. That tutor is clearly not as good as my aunt either. I think it's bullshit that the state is talking about making learning fun. It's all rote learning. My aunt's too busy to be a teacher, but if she wanted to, she would be the best." Jiajia raised her thumb. "I'm not lying to you. If my aunt becomes an English teacher in my school, the students would be over the moon. I said that it was fun, but I didn't mean that we only had fun. I just meant that it wasn't stressful but relaxing. Auntie was able to make a boring subject come to life. I was able to absorb whatever she taught me immediately. Mom, you should discuss it with my uncle to see if my aunt is willing to take on students. You're saying that it's entirely your aunt's credit that you managed to score 99 marks? Is your aunt really that good?" She didn't really believe it. It was not as though she didn't know about Jiao Nan's qualifications. As her sister-in-law, she had never looked down on Jiao Nan. But now, she was looking at Jiao Nan as her daughter's teacher. Jiao Nan's qualifications couldn't even compare to her daughter's, so how could she possibly teach Jiajia English? It seemed like nonsense to her. Jia rolled her eyes and took some fruits out from the fridge. See, I was right. I knew that you looked down on my aunt. Nonsense. Zihua hit Jia on the head. What are you talking about? This has got nothing to do with looking down on her. I've never thought of it as her fault. It's not as if she chose to grow up in that environment. She was just down on luck, having parents like that. So, do you know how lucky you are for having me as a mom? Then again, your aunt did have good results while she was still in junior high school. If your aunt had gotten the chance to study, she would probably have done better than you. Hearing how Zihua was still trying to praise herself in such a situation, Jia was at a loss for words. That's exactly what you meant. Anyway, all you have to know is that my aunt is really brilliant. You don't have to worry about my English for now. I'm not sure what will happen in the future. Zihua couldn't help but pinch her daughter's face. Look at how affectionate you are when you talk about your aunt. You're not even this affectionate when you call me. Knowing that Zihua was only joking, Jia made a face at her. Humph. You don't treat me as well as Auntie does. You don't even believe me and you're even suspecting me now. Do you think you're really my biological mother? I think you might have gotten me as a free gift. She was still upset. She might not have spent a long time with her aunt, but she had paid close attention during her aunt's lessons. Jia was afraid that she wouldn't be able to be a good role model to her 3 siblings if she didn't study well. Then, her aunt might not even let her play with them anymore. Her mom didn't matter. Her aunt and her 3 younger siblings were more important. To Jia, her mom, Zihua, was nowhere as important as the triplets. As a result, Jia was more willing to listen to Jiaonan than Zihua. Chapter 2388, Reincarnation is a Skill, 2. However, to Zihua, what was most important was that her daughter's English score had indeed improved. Later, she prepared lessons meant for those in the second year of high school for Jia. After the summer vacation, Jia returned to school and took a monthly English examination. In the end, her results were really much better than the past 2 semesters. That was when Zihua understood that Jiaonan had a way of teaching children. After having this good result, what else was Zihua calculative about? She was naturally more thankful toward Jiaonan. After that, whenever Jia encountered any problems in her studies, Zihua would always call to discuss with Jiaonan. Since Zihua was willing, Jiaonan was naturally not stingy. Furthermore, Jia was Zisheng's only niece. Jiaonan should care about Jia more. Also, Jia liked the triplets so much. She was just returning favor with favor. If Jiaonan taught Jia well, she might even have an assistant in the future. With Jia helping her bring up the 3 children and setting an example for them, who knows who would be the one who really benefited. Yes, don't worry. It's pretty good recently. Nothing's wrong. I saw the English results. It didn't deteriorate. When I went to Jia's school last week, her English teacher even came to find me and praised me for paying attention to her results. Yes, don't worry. It's all good. If Jia encounters any situation in the future, I might even have to find you. It could be said that I've raised this daughter up for nothing. She only listens to you. She even angered me previously and asked if she was a gift from others. If she wasn't my own child, I would have thrown her out a long time ago. Her daughter's progress was complimented by her teacher. Zihua felt relieved. As long as her daughter was well, there was nothing Zihua would be dissatisfied with in this lifetime. Upon thinking about the change Jiaonan brought about to the Zai family after she married over and that she herself had benefited quite a bit, Zihua was pretty thankful that Jiaonan was willing to marry Zai Sheng. At least, following Jiaonan's arrival, the Zai family became truly happy. That's good. After knowing that Jia's current academic performance was stable, Jiaonan felt happy. She had previously heard from Zihua that Jia was very bad-tempered. She had also heard from Miaojing that the Jiajia now had a similar temper to the young Zihua in the past. As such, Qiaonan had felt quite stressed and really thought that it would be difficult to teach Jiajia. Qiaonan guessed that Zihua should have been angry back then. Jiajia was also singing a different tune back then. Once Zihua was angry, she naturally exaggerated Jiajia's situation. Qiaonan didn't know that Jiajia's temper was completely different when she was with her and when she was with Zihua. Zihua had not exaggerated. Simply put, sparks flew between the mother-daughter pair too easily. Thankfully, Qiaonan was fair-tempered and patient. Her character was very different from Zihua. Between Zihua and Jiajia, when the mom became short-tempered and her daughter followed suit, wouldn't it be just like a bullfight where both parties weren't willing to give in? What was different was that if Jiajia really ran into a situation, she liked to understand the details from Jiajia slowly and ask about her feelings. At this age, Jiajia liked to gain the respect of adults and their equal attitude. As her aunt, Qiaonan was willing to communicate with Jiajia with such a good attitude. There was no reason for Jiajia not to answer her. After sharing her feelings, Qiaonan didn't change Jiajia's attitude toward her English teacher immediately. Instead, she thought of ways to pull Jiajia's interest in English back first. Only after Jiajia regained her enthusiasm for English did Qiaonan teach Jiajia that everyone was an independent entity. It wasn't something strange that Jiajia disliked her English teacher. Other students would encounter this situation as well. It was just that every teacher's dedication to students should be recognized by the students. Even if she didn't feel thankful, she should at least acknowledge it. Jiajia should first respect the identity of her English teacher before dealing with English as a subject. Interactions between people were always that strange. Some people didn't need a reason to get along well with each other. Some people would magnify small issues and become intolerant of each other's reasons. So be it that she didn't like her. It was enough if Jiajia could treat her teacher in a neutral manner. It was also because Qiaonan's method of handling Jiajia was relatively milder. She didn't force Jiajia to do this or that. As time passed, Jiajia became more mentally prepared. When she saw the English teacher whom she disliked again, Jiajia's rebellious emotions weren't as strong as before. Following the improvement of Jiajia's English results, Jiajia's English teacher also started to change her views of Jiajia. She didn't find Jiajia to be a particularly perverse child. If she persuaded her and taught her more, she could still listen to her words. With this good atmosphere, many situations became a positive cycle. The English teacher felt that Jiajia was still considered an obedient child. Her attitude toward Jiajia was naturally better than before and she was willing to care more about her. Seeing that her English teacher wasn't as detestable as she thought and that there was a good side to her, Jiajia naturally felt that it wasn't that difficult to accept her English teacher. Once the teacher-student attitude changed, the relationship between teaching and learning was naturally achieved. Because of this incident, whenever Jiajia encountered something in the future, she would definitely call her aunt, Qiaonan, and listen to her advice. Of course, upon seeing how close Jiajia was to Qiaonan, her aunt, and that Qiaonan's position in her daughter's heart had surpassed hers, Zihua nearly drowned in jealousy. Later, Miaojing even persuaded Zihua to cherish her good fortune. She shouldn't overthink and create trouble. Think about your bad temper. Jiajia's your daughter. Her bull-like temper's similar to yours. Don't blame her for this matter. You should blame your genes. If both of you are put together to discuss the problem, both of you would end up dead or wounded. This was really. Zihua had formed a family and gotten a divorce. She also became a mother and raised Jiajia up. Miaojing always felt that there would be changes to Zihua's character. Didn't they say that a woman who became a mother was completely different from before? Her daughter was also a woman. Who would have thought that Zihua would become an exception? In front of the Wei family, Zihua became easy to talk to at times as she wanted to maintain her marriage to Wei Dai. The problem was that Zihua's horrible temper was really the same before and after the divorce. Chapter 2389, Reincarnation is a skill, 3. Even before her only daughter, Zihua wasn't prepared to change her temper. How good is Nan Nan? She's your sister-in-law and the biological mother of the triplets. Her love for Jiajia isn't any lesser than the triplets. Nan Nan has a gentle temperament. She's a good example of using gentleness to counter toughness. You know Zai Sheng's temper. Nan Nan could turn my son into a good husband and father. Isn't Nan Nan capable? I understand why Nan Nan is living well in our house now. All of us have a hard temper and aren't soft-hearted. Will our family not like a person like Nan Nan? Zihua had to acknowledge Miao Jing's words as she was speaking the truth. However, the more she listened, the more she felt something was amiss. Mom, based on your words, why do I feel that Jiao Nan isn't gentle but using a soft knife on our family instead? Anyway, in the end, their family would compromise. She was right about this, right? Miao Jing patted Zihua's back. Do you know how to say something nice? No wonder Jiajia doesn't like you. These words are so unpleasant. How is Nan Nan using a soft knife on our family? Did you return all your language knowledge to your language teacher? Nan Nan has 3 biological children. She's already so busy taking care of her own children. Who would be willing to take care of others' children? Nan Nan isn't afraid of hard work and is willing to help you keep an eye on Jiajia. You should be happy. Also, you don't have to be so calculative. You have to know that Nan Nan can manage Jiajia. The Zai family was bad-tempered and didn't listen to persuasion. They were lacking a person who could manage them. Thankfully, Jiao Nan appeared. The best thing was that not only did the gentle Jiao Nan succeed in managing Zai Sheng but also Zihua and Jiajia. To Miao Jing, these 3 people were the most difficult to manage in the Zai family. Ignoring the fact that Zihua was jealous over how Jiajia listened to Jiao Nan's words and didn't value her, the biological mother, Miao Jing understood in her heart that Zihua always listened to Jiao Nan's advice. Even when she had finally divorced Wei Dai, Jiao Nan had played a big role in it. It was just that people usually persuaded couples to stay together instead of getting a divorce. Before she married over, she was already encouraging her sister-in-law to get a divorce. In the eyes of ordinary people, this wasn't acceptable. Only family should know about her own affairs. Why should an outsider know so much? Furthermore, she was actively discussing it. After Miao Jing's persuasion, Zihua, who was originally someone who could figure things out, simply relaxed. Anyway, Jiajia was willing to let Jiao Nan manage her. If there was someone else helping her care for Jiajia, wouldn't Zihua's stress and burden be lowered? No harm was done if there was no comparison. Zihua was still a little jealous that Jiajia listened to Jiao Nan's words a lot. However, Zihua couldn't deny that when it came to raising a child, she really wasn't as good as Jiao Nan. Look at how Jiao Nan brought the triplets up to be so obedient and cute. In Jiao Nan's hands, Jiajia was a sweet and caring child. When Jiao Nan wanted to feed the triplets milk, Jiajia would help sterilize the bottles, make the milk, and hand over the full milk bottles to Jiao Nan only after testing the temperature. After the triplets drank milk, Jiao Nan didn't need to wash the dirty bottles. Jiajia had long taken them to the kitchen to wash and put in the disinfection cabinet. In front of Jiao Nan, Jiajia was like Jiao Nan's elder daughter and a good helper. What made Zihua depressed was that in front of her, the biological mother, Jiajia was obviously a choking pepper. She was resigned to fate. Having a daughter like this, what else could she do besides resigning to fate? Her mom was right. She should be thankful that Jiajia was willing to be managed by Jiao Nan and Jiao Nan was willing to help her manage Jiajia. If the situation were to change and Zai Sheng married someone else or remained single, based on the way she was getting along with Jiajia, Jiajia would follow her old path sooner or later, like how she had fallen out with her family in order to marry Wei Dai back then and made a wrong choice. It was better to have someone manage Jiajia than no one. As long as Jiajia was willing to accept it, everything was good. Zai Sheng's at home, right? What is he doing? After being persuaded by Miao Jing like this, Zai Hua couldn't help but feel grateful that Zai Sheng made a good judgment to marry such a good woman like Jiao Nan, benefiting the entire family. No matter what, he was much better than she had been back then. During the short 3 years that Chu Chenexai had been married to Zai Sheng, she had used the Zai family's resources to push Chu Qin up. She had even nearly caused the Zai family to be burdened by Chu Qin and shamelessly cheated on Zai Sheng. Zai Sheng and the rest, who were far away in the capital, didn't know and didn't care about Chu Chenexai's news. However, Zai Hua, who stayed in Pingcheng, knew a lot Chu Qin was dishonest. He took advantage of the relationships Qi Minlin and Chu Chenexai had with the Zai family when they were young and climbed up the ranks a lot. However, if someone didn't have a conscience when they were young, don't expect that they would somehow find their conscience when they were old. Forget it that Chu Qin had an affair. At his age, he insisted on divorcing Qi Minlin as he said that he had already wronged the woman outside for half a lifetime. If he didn't get a divorce, he would have wronged her for her whole life. He only wished that during his remaining lifetime, he could be husband and wife with the woman he truly loved so as not to leave any regrets in life. In the past, Zai Hua hated Qi Minlin. Following Qi Minlin's and Chu Chenexai's appearances, the atmosphere in their family became especially low. Her mom became especially unhappy. However, seeing that Qi Minlin was being so badly hurt by Chu Qin in her later years, from the perspective of a woman, Zai Hua pitied Qi Minlin a little. Of course, Zai Hua never forgot how Qi Minlin used to ruin their family's relationships. Even if Qi Minlin was unlucky in her later years, she would never give her any help at this time just because she pitied her. Chu Qin wasn't a good person. Qi Minlin was no better. This couple slept on the same bed but had different dreams. Qi Minlin always ran to the house of her ex-boyfriend, who was already married and had children, trying to pair her daughter with her ex-boyfriend's son. Although Chu Qin knew what his wife was doing, in order to get promoted and become rich, he was willing to carry the doubt of being cheated on. As long as she didn't cheat on him, he would tolerate it. How strange was it that this disagreeable couple did such a thing? Chapter 2390, Bad-Tempered, 1. When they were younger, Chu Qin allowed Qi Minlin to keep running to the Zai family's house. This had long proven that Chu Qin wasn't a man with a backbone. Qi Minlin was old but she was still strong. What was the significance of dragging this marriage? If she refused to get a divorce and give up her position, Chu Qin would chase after her every day and annoy her to death. He could similarly achieve his goal. He wanted a divorce? So be it. Qi Minlin didn't like Chu Qin, and she was still a rational person. When her parents-in-law were alive, she had already known that not only did Chu Qin have a woman outside, but he was also providing for a son. In order to protect her own interests, Qi Minlin had long used Chu Qin's style of work as something against him such that the elders from the Chu family would hand over everything to her. Even the house was transferred to Qi Minlin's name. Later, when Chu Chenexai married Zai Sheng and then divorced him, Qi Minlin had some scheming thoughts. She got Chu Chenexai to set up a separate account. As such, without Chu Chenexai's knowledge, Chu Chenexai became the owner of the Chu family. Everything in the Chu family belonged to Chu Chenexai alone. Since his status was removed, what was the penniless Chu Qin left with? Qi Minlin didn't have an active sex life with Chu Qin. Rather than being suppressed by a half-hearted Chu Qin, she'd rather think of ways to satisfy her not-so-strong desires. He was an old and useless rotten cucumber. Whoever wanted him could have him. After settling the divorce procedures, Qi Minlin initially wanted to chase Chu Qin, his true love, and his beloved son out of the Chu family. In the end, Chu Chenexai was afraid that it would be more troublesome if she was entangled by Chu Qin. As such, she thought of selling the Chu family's house and changing to another house. After discussing this, the mother-daughter pair moved out of the Chu family's house without saying anything. They even successfully sold the old villa. Both of them left Pingcheng with a huge sum of money in their hands and returned to Chi Minlan's hometown in Mo. They bought a house and lived there. By the time Chu Qin, who thought that he had successfully snatched the old villa back from Chi Minlan's hands, was happily searching for the real estate certificate in his house, the new owner of the house had already produced the new real estate certificate, wanting to collect the house. There was no doubt that Chu Qin and his family weren't qualified to continue living in this house. The new owner's procedures for buying a house were completely legal. As the owner of the house, they could give Chu Qin 3 days, during which the 3 generations of the Chu family had to move out of the house. It was only then that Chu Qin knew he had been tricked by Chi Minlan. Before Chu Chenxi divorced Zai Sheng didn't like to bother himself with the Chu family's matters. After the two divorced, the Chu family's matters had even less to do with Zai Sheng. As such, after knowing the Chu family's situation, Zai Hua didn't mention a word to Zai Sheng, let alone tell Qiao Nan. This was Qiao Nan's first marriage but Zai Sheng's second. How would any woman feel comfortable upon hearing the news of her husband's ex-wife? Qiao Nan helped her manage her daughter. How could she be so heartless to give Qiao Nan more trouble? No way. There was another reason why Zai Hua was particularly unwilling to mention the Chu family's matters in front of the Zai family. What reason was it? Chu Qin was too shameless. People of the same family had similar personalities and temper. When Zai Hua was young, Chi Minlan was the woman she hated the most. Now, Zai Hua expressed that Chu Qin was the old man she hated the most. Chu Qin had already divorced Chi Minlan. Chu Chenxi had also long divorced Zai Sheng. After the divorce, they were ex-partners. In truth, they no longer had anything to do with one another. Chu Qin insisted that the son he had with his third party was Chu Chenxi's younger brother. Although Chu Chenxi didn't want to admit it, they did have a blood relationship. She had to agree reluctantly. The problem was that Chu Qin insisted that the son he had with his third party was Zai Sheng's younger brother as he was the younger brother of his wife. That was too overboard, right? Chu Qin insisted on labeling this son of his as Zai Sheng's younger brother. Then, he went around pulling strings, trying to push his son up. When Zai Hua received the news, she was furious. She had seen shameless people before, but not to this extent. Their Zai family didn't even know who this son was, let alone met him before. Even if they did, they were like strangers. How was he their younger brother? Zai Hua's temper was somewhat restrained. If it were more than 20 years ago that Zai Hua encountered such a matter, she would have long gone to the Chu family's house and given Chu Qin a beating. Even if someone liked to blow up their own trumpet, nobody did it like Chu Qin. As a government official, he ignored his image and had improper relationships. He even dared to link this matter to the Zai family. That was too bold of him. Wasn't Chu Qin worried that he might anger the Zai family at all? If she made a move, that third party's son wouldn't even be able to enter Pingcheng, let alone try to work in the government sector. They really dared to throw everything under the sky to the Zai family. Although Zai Hua didn't go to the Chu family's house in the end, she didn't just leave this matter alone. Their Zai family had always been in the clear. They didn't have such improper relatives. Zai Hua got someone to spread the news that Zai Sheng was indeed married and had a wife. However, Zai Sheng's wife didn't have a brother. If the brother didn't exist, how would the wife of the brother exist? As for Chu Chenxi's name, Zai Hua didn't even want to mention it at all. Chu Chenxi brought Chi Minlan to live in Mo and no longer disturbed the Zai family. Of course, Zai Hua wouldn't keep clinging on to Chu Chenxi and embarrass herself either. Chu Qin wanted to borrow the Zai family's and Zai Sheng's face to help his son find a good job. The problem was that how would the people who wanted to give him face on account of Zai Sheng and the Zai family not pay attention to the Zai family when handling this matter? Once they heard the news that Zai Hua spread, they no longer hesitated. Whenever Chu Qin brought his son to their houses, they would ask them to return with their cigarettes and alcohol. Nobody could help with this. It was better for Chu Qin to let his son find a suitable job on his own based on his own capabilities. The Chu family, who was now in a miserable state, really didn't need to think about playing tricks. After resolving the Chu family's troubles, Zai Hua didn't even want to let Zai Sheng know about this at all. She was afraid that if Jiao Nan heard this, she would misunderstand that Zai Sheng was still in contact with the Chu family. Oh, right. You don't have to worry about the Chiao family's situation. I'll help you monitor them. It's been quite peaceful recently. Nan shouldn't have to worry about the Chiao family's matters.